Jasmine Crockett thought she had Pam Bondi backed into a corner until she calmly uttered a sentence that silenced the entire hearing room. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. The hearing room was packed to the brim, not a single seat left unclaimed. Cameras blazed, their lenses trained on the witness table, while microphones stood poised like sentinels. The air hung heavy, thick with anticipation. Like the calm before a storm, Pam Bondi, White House press secretary, sat at the center of it all. Her demeanor was steely, composed to the point of impenetrability. A tailored navy blazer hugged her frame, her blonde hair pulled back neatly, and her sharp hazel eyes stared straight ahead. She brought no entourage, just herself, a glass of water, and a quiet confidence that seemed to radiate from her very presence. Across the room, the door swung open, with a dramatic thud. Jasmine Crockett, the Texas congresswoman, stormed in like a force of nature. Her red blouse was a blaze of color against the muted tones of the room, her gaze cold and cutting as a blade. She didn't even glance at Bondi. The cameras were already on her. And she knew it. The House Oversight Committee chairman banged his gavel, the sound reverberating through the chamber. The hearing on White House media accountability begins, he declared, his voice firm but drowned out by the rising tension. Every eye was on the two women, Bondi, the seasoned Trump loyalist here to defend the administration, and Crockett, the Democratic firebrand ready to dismantle any excuse. The chairman banged his gavel again, slicing through the murmurs. We're here to examine the White House's responsibility in managing public information, he said, his tone low but unable to quell the electric atmosphere. The cameras panned slowly across the audience, settling on Pam Bondi. The lights caught her face, accentuating her unflinching calm, a veteran prosecutor who'd faced tougher rooms than this. Opposite her, Jasmine Crockett leaned forward, tapping her pen rapidly on a stack of papers, her eyes sharp enough to bore holes through Bondi. The chairman turned to Bondi. Miss Bondi, you have 5 minutes for your opening statement. The microphone hissed faintly as she pulled it closer, but her voice cut through the room clear and commanding. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And members of the House Oversight Committee, she began, her tone steady and authoritative. I'm not here to apologize or spin tales. President Trump's administration stands on one principle. The American people have the right to speak. It's not our job to silence them, on X or anywhere else. They express themselves freely, whether you like it or not. She cast a quick glance at Crockett, a flicker of challenge in her eyes, but her composure remained ironclad. The room may call it chaos, we call it real democracy, not something filtered by politicians or media elites who think they're the arbiters of truth. The room fell silent. Bondi's voice, neither loud nor soft, carried the weight of her years as Florida's Attorney General. The White House doesn't control the narrative. We don't need to. The people decide what they believe, what they say. If someone thinks that's messy, so be it. I know I'll be grilled today. I'm ready. But don't expect me to apologize for letting Americans be free. She finished, pushed the microphone away, and sat back, hands clasped lightly on the table. Scattered applause broke out from a few corners. Trump supporters, no doubt, but it was quickly swallowed by murmurs. The cameras swung to Crockett. She didn't clap. She didn't smile. Her lips were pressed tight, her fingers gripping her pen like she might snap it in two. An aide whispered something beside her, but she waved them off, eyes locked on Bondi. Clearly she wasn't letting that opening slide. The chairman nodded, his voice dry. Thank you, Miss Bondi. We'll move to questioning. Congresswoman Crockett, would you like to start? Christiane didn't wait for him to finish. She stood, pulling the microphone close, her voice booming like a thunderclap. Oh, I'd love to, Mr. Chairman. A few chuckles rose from Democratic lawmakers, but the air grew heavy again. She pointed at Bondi, no hesitation. He just gave a pretty speech about real democracy. But let's cut through it. Does real democracy mean letting lies spread like wildfire on X, tearing this country apart? Or is that just a fancy excuse for the White House to dodge accountability? Bondi didn't flinch. She met Crockett's gaze, her eyes steady. Congresswoman Crockett, I don't think you want the real answer, she replied, her voice light but edged with steel. But I'll give it to you. We don't control X, and we don't control the people. You want to call it lies? That's your prerogative. We call it truth, truth not everyone wants to hear. A faint smile flickered on her lips, barely there but enough to ignite Crockett's fury. Christiane leaned closer to the mic, her voice rising. Truth? You call election conspiracies? Divisive rhetoric? Truth? You stand there, representing the White House, and say letting people get brainwashed is democracy? I can't believe this. She turned to the audience, hand raised as if rallying a crowd. This isn't democracy. This is chaos your administration created. The room buzzed, murmurs growing louder. Some nodded, others shook their heads. Bondi responded, her tone still even. If you think the people aren't smart enough to tell truth from lies, the problem's not with us. Congresswoman, maybe you should ask yourself who's really trying to dictate what people think. We let them think freely. You want the White House to filter every word to fit your view. Is that freedom in your eyes? The words were like gasoline on a fire. Crockett slammed her hand on the table, the bang echoing. Don't play innocent with me, she shouted, eyes blazing. The chairman's gavel pounded, but no one cared. Crockett stood there, hands on hips, her fury a palpable force. Bondi sat still, her face unmoved, as if Crockett's rage was just a passing breeze. Cristiano Ronaldo Wijnaldum, it was still. Sharp. Mrs. Bondi, let's clarify something. You were Florida's Attorney General, a prosecutor fighting for justice. I was a lawyer in Texas, defending people hurt by lies like the ones I saw in Dallas, where conspiracies tore communities apart. I'm here for them. And you're Trump's loyal soldier, standing here defending this so-called people's voice. Do you actually believe what you're saying, or are you just reciting Trump's script? Bondi tilted her head slightly, a hint of curiosity in her eyes, but her composure never wavered. Congresswoman Crockett, I'm not here to tell my life story, she replied, her voice cool and measured. But since you asked, yes, I believe what I say. I'm not reading a script. I speak because this administration believes Americans don't need someone holding their hand through every word on X. Crockett let out a scoff, the sound reverberating through the mic. Believe it? Then answer me straight. Do you know what the White House leaves on X? Posts about election fraud, anti-immigrant rants. You call that the people's voice? That's lies, chaos, the stuff tearing this country apart, and you stand there with that smug calm, acting like you're blameless. Bondi didn't smile. She paused, adjusted the mic, then replied, Congresswoman Crockett, you can call it whatever you want, but we don't write those posts. The people do. If you don't like the content, the issue isn't us, it's the very people you represent. What they think, what they say. That's not something the White House can or should control. Christiane slammed her hand down again, startling a few onlookers. Don't dodge me, she yelled, pointing straight at Bondi. You know what those lies cause? People believe the election was stolen, they threaten violence, and you just sit there saying that's democracy. I'm not buying that excuse. You're Trump's puppet, letting him and his cronies weaponize X. The room erupted, murmurs spreading like wildfire. Democratic lawmakers nodded, Republicans shook their heads. Bondi didn't budge, her gaze locked on Crockett. Puppet, she repeated, a trace of mockery in her tone but still restrained. Congresswoman Crockett, I don't run X, and neither does the White House. If you think the people are a weapon just because they say things you don't like, maybe you're the one who doesn't trust them. Who do you want to silence, Trump or your own voters? Christiane leaned into the mic, her voice shrill. Don't act noble with me. I'm not silencing anyone. I want you in the White House held accountable. Those posts aren't voices. They're hate, violence, the stuff turning people against each other. You think you're clever, sitting there playing innocent, but I see through it. You're enabling chaos. Bondi raised an eyebrow, the first hint of a reaction, but quickly regained her calm. Hate or not, Congresswoman Crockett, I don't decide that, and neither do you, she said, her voice rising slightly. You want the White House to censor every post on X? Fine. But don't be surprised when the people turn on you. They don't like being treated like kids who need babysitting. Christiane fired back instantly, hand raised as if to drown Bondi in her fury. I'm not babysitting anyone. I'm protecting them from the lies you let spread. Do you know the consequences? People believe conspiracies, act on them, and you just shrug, saying that's freedom to destroy the country. Her voice broke, emotions spilling out uncontrollably. Bondi stared straight at Crockett, unblinking. Freedom's always messy, she replied, her voice low but sharp. But what do you want, a world where the government filters every word to protect people? That's not freedom, Congresswoman Crockett, that's control, something you seem to enjoy. She paused, letting the words hang in the air. The room filled with noise, woos from the stands, reporters scribbling furiously. Crockett gripped the mic like she wanted to crush it. Control, she repeated, her voice shaking with rage. You dare say I want control? I want truth. I want accountability. And you're just Trump's mouthpiece, letting him and his MAGA crowd sow chaos unchecked. The chairman banged his gavel again. Order, order, but his voice drowned in Crockett's emotional storm. Bondi didn't reply immediately. She took a sip of water, set the glass down, and looked at Crockett with eyes both curious and steely. If you want accountability, go ahead and ask, she said, her tone still even. But don't expect me to apologize for letting the people speak, no matter how loud you yell. Cristiano Ronaldo's one-tumble straighta. The stack of papers trembled. I'll scream until you take responsibility, she roared, her face flushed red. Out there, social media was ablaze. Live viewers typed furiously. Cristiano to explode. Bondi's ice cold. Clips of Bondi's rebuttal spread like wildfire. The hashtag Crockett D's Bondi climbing higher than ever. The sound of Crockett's hand hitting the table still echoed, but Pam Bondi didn't flinch. She sat there, hands lightly clasped, her cold gaze locked on Crockett as if the fury couldn't touch her. The chairman pounded his gavel repeatedly. Order, I demand order, but his voice was a whisper in the storm. Kirsty's eyes were bloodshot, her grip on the microphone so tight her knuckles turned white. She took a deep breath, her voice trembling but sharp as a blade. As a blade, Bondi, I'll ask one last time. Are you going to take responsibility for the lies on X, or will you keep pretending you're just a bystander? Bondi didn't answer right away. She tilted her head slightly, then pulled the microphone closer. Her voice rang out, steady and emotionless. Congresswoman Crockett, I'm not responsible for what the people say. I'm responsible for ensuring they can say it. You want to blame someone? Blame freedom, but don't expect me to stand here apologizing for not silencing them. She paused, leaning slightly forward, her eyes never leaving Crockett. Christiat fired back instantly, her voice piercingly high. Freedom? You call that freedom when people believe the election was stolen, when they threatened to kill each other over posts on X that you let slide? That's not freedom, it's chaos, and you're enabling it. She pointed straight at Bondi, her finger trembling with anger. You stand there, representing the White House, and say it's fine to let people be misled? I can't accept that. The room erupted in murmurs, the audience leaning forward, reporters scribbling frantically. Bondi didn't blink. Congresswoman Crockett, she said, her voice lower, firmer, you keep talking about people being misled, but who's really trying to impose their thoughts on others? We let people think for themselves. You want the White House to censor every word to fit your narrative. Is that freedom in your eyes? Crockett was livid. Don't twist my words, she screamed, her face burning red. I don't want censorship, I want you to be accountable. Those lies have consequences, people die, communities fall apart, and you just shrug and say that's democracy. You think you're so clever, but I see it, you're hiding behind freedom to protect Trump. Bondi pulled the microphone closer, her voice still even but sharp as a knife. Congresswoman Crockett, I'm not hiding behind anything. I'm standing here in front of you, in front of this nation. But if you want to talk about consequences, look at yourself. You want to control the narrative, decide who gets to speak and who doesn't. That's not protection, that's power. And maybe your problem isn't the lies, but that you can't control the story anymore. The words were a slow-burning bomb. The room fell silent, only Crockett's ragged breathing audible through the mic. Her eyes widened, her face froze for a moment, then exploded. Control? She roared, her voice breaking. You dare say I want control? You're gaslighting this entire Congress. I'm fighting for truth, for the people, and you let Trump and his MAGA crowd sow chaos, then stand there pretending to be noble. Who are you to say I've lost control? Bondi looked at Crockett, a flicker of curiosity in her eyes, then leaned into the mic. I didn't say you've lost control, Congresswoman Crockett, she said, her voice low but clear. I said you don't control the narrative anymore, and that scares you. You yell, you bang the table, but the people still speak, and we still let them. You want to change that? Go ahead and try. She paused, then sat back, hands lightly clasped, as if nothing had happened. That was the final straw. Crockett lost it completely. She shot up, her chair scraping back with a screech, her hands slamming the table again. Try? I won't just try, I'll make you pay, she screamed, her voice shaking with uncontrollable rage. You think you're so smart, sitting there with that cool act, but I won't let you dodge this. The people deserve the truth, not lies from Trump's mouthpiece. The microphone trembled with every word, her face flushed, her eyes wild. The murmurs in the room turned into a roar, clapping mixed with whistles, some shouting in agreement, others in dissent. And I sat still, not smiling, not moving, just watching Crockett with an eerie calm. Order now, the chairman bellowed, pounding his gavel relentlessly. But no one listened. Bondi's voice cut through the chaos, low but clear. You want the truth? The truth is, the people are still speaking, and you can't stop them. The words were a final dagger. Crockett screamed. You're manipulating all of us. But her voice drowned in the noise. The hearing room turned into a sea of chaos. Cameras whipped between the two women, capturing every second. Crockett stood there, staring at Bondi with uncontainable fury, her aide whispering something, but she brushed them off. She'd lost control in front of the nation, and everyone saw it. Bondi, in contrast, remained an unyielding block of ice, her gaze detached, her composure terrifyingly intact. On X, reactions split starkly. Bondi just knocked out Crockett without raising her voice. She's a legend, one user posted, racking up thousands of likes with a meme of Bondi captioned, Ice Queen win. Trump supporters hailed her, steel spine, nothing breaks her, this is the spokesperson we need. Another wrote, the louder Crockett yells, the more she proves Bondi right. People don't want to be gagged. Cristiano Ronaldo's supporters fought back. Cristiano Ronaldo's fought back. Cristiano Ronaldo's supporters rise, one posted, drawing thousands in agreement with a clip of Crockett pointing at Bondi, captioned, she's speaking for us. Progressive groups rallied. Crockett exploded because she cares. Bondi's cold because she's got nothing to lose. Beyond X, the clash spread across platforms. On Instagram, an influencer posted Bondi's photo with peak confidence, cool but blazing, while another uploaded Crockett slamming the table, writing, when you're fed up with lies, she's the queen. TikTok exploded with reenactments. One user as Bondi sitting still with a flat you can't control it, facing another as Crockett yelling and banging a table, hitting 1 million views in an hour. Mainstream media piled on. CNN aired live. Crockett showed rare courage. She's not afraid to confront power, but Bondi turned her anger into a disadvantage. Fox News countered. Bondi taught Congress a lesson in control. Crockett yelled, but Bondi won with smarts. MSNBC said, Crockett embodies the people's outrage. Bondi's just Trump's megaphone, while Newsmax praised, she's the future of the GOP. Cool, sharp, unflinching. Pam Bondi stepped into the hallway, her heels clicking steadily on the marble floor. Reporters rushed forward, but she glided past, her gaze never lingering. She turned into a small office where Elise Stefanik waited, coffee in hand, a smirk on her lips. You did great, Pam, she said warmly. Crockett screamed loud, but you didn't flinch. Bondi sank into an armchair, unbuttoning her blazer, exhaling softly. I wasn't surprised by her, she replied. Crockett cares, I can see that, but she thinks yelling changes things. It doesn't work that way. The Stefanik nodded. You showed the nation how we play. Calm, sharp, Trump's going to love this. Bondi gazed out the window. City lights twinkling below. I didn't do it for Trump, she said quietly. I did it for principle. People have to speak. Right or wrong, otherwise we're no different from what Crockett hates. A few rooms away, Jasmine Crockett stormed into her office, slamming the door. She dropped her papers on the desk, hands trembling, then collapsed into her chair. Her team stood silently until one broke the quiet. You okay, Congresswoman? You did great. The whole country heard you. Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the greatest still. Cristiano worth them force. Great? I didn't take her down. I yelled. I banged the table, but Bondi didn't budge. I don't feel like I won. Another aide stepped forward. You spoke the truth. That's what matters. Bondi can be calm, but you showed we won't stay silent against lies. Kryptis gave a bitter laugh. Truth doesn't mean a thing if I can't make them accountable. She stood there, cold as ice, and made me look like I lost control. I hate that. She tapped her fist lightly on the desk, remembering her days as a Texas lawyer fighting for people hurt by misinformation. I'm not stopping, she said firmly. Bondi and Trump might have won today, but I'll make them pay somehow. The clash between Jasmine Crockett and Pam Bondi mirrored America's deep divide, a nation where free speech, social media, and politics collide in unrelenting battles. Crockett's outrage echoed those who feel truth is warped by misinformation, while Bondi's icy calm defended the right to speak, even if it leads to chaos. In a polarized society, how we communicate matters more than ever. Bondi won not because she was right, but because she controlled her emotions, turning Crockett's anger into a weakness. Argue with passion, but don't let it burn you down.